I've been invited by an art store in Singapore to host a local watercolor flower meet, and I thought the best way to gain inspiration was from my favorite place, and it was through books. Today, I'm going to be bringing you through our artist meet and also sharing with you some of the friendships that I've made through my journey as an artist. I was so fortunate to connect with Overjoyed Singapore. It's a local art store where I purchased quite a number of my own fine art supplies. And during this watercolor floral meet, it was just a gathering of various artists who love painting in watercolor, specifically florals, just coming together and paint and getting to know each other. It was more like a session where we got to connect with one another. This is where I started to reflect a little bit about my journey and think about where I've been, because I've been visiting this store from the very early stages of my own journey, where I was kind of figuring out what I liked, the different supplies that were available. And as I was in that store, it was a very humbling moment because a part of me wanted to someday be an artist that was featured, or an artist who was going to be contributing back to the community. As I sat amongst all of these wonderfully talented and bright people, I wondered what to call ourselves. Are we artists? This is always a recurring thought that I hear very often, and it was also something that I used to think about and struggle with. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about how we will want to define ourselves, our role, and I cannot wait for you to listen in more. I feel like many of us hold back with wanting to call ourselves an artist because we feel like we're not good enough, or we feel like we need to have a specific level of experience. I used to feel those same feelings too, and as a result, I wouldn't invest in my supplies because I thought that I needed to be worthy or good enough before, I get professional grade paints and brushes. And that was also a very high price tag to most of them. What I didn't realize was that because of my own roadblocks and limitations, I was limiting myself to actually experiencing the full experience of watercolor. I now learn that watercolor is one of those mediums where you do need good quality supplies to experience a good amount of success. I had no idea that I was actually fighting the medium for so long, and the biggest reason was because I didn't feel like I was worthy. This episode, I'm going to be doing a painting dedicated to Brush Movement Collective. These are artists who have joined my community, and a lot of them, together with me, all wonder, am I an artist? And so many of them are so committed, and I'm also really proud to say that I see each of them as an artist regardless of where their experience is. I'm just so proud of the level of commitment that they have to their practice, seeing how they want to improve, seeing them show up, investing in themselves. I believe that should be how we start to measure and see our worth as an artist, instead of waiting for the world to finally recognize our worth. In today's episode, I'm going to be doing a painting that is dedicated to my brush movement community. When I did this painting, I painted a whole variety of very loose, colorful florals. I wanted to showcase how each of these loose flowers were individual and unique, which was a reflection of each of the artists that were coming to join Brush Movement Collective. Now, when I was doing this painting, I started to really reflect on the term artist, and I knew that many of the students that come into our community sometimes dabble around art and feel like the term artist is really a professional level kind of label, and many of us actually don't feel like we are worthy of that title. And I can totally relate to where some of these feelings come in, especially since we always feel like we need to reach a certain milestone, be it selling an art piece or being a part of a gallery show. And some of these milestones, to me, are actually officially set by society rather than personal satisfaction or our own personal goals. Because for me, even though I've been painting for the last 4 years, I wouldn't say that I've done many gallery shows, I wouldn't say that I've sold many original pieces, but I still relate to the artist role and the artist title just because for me, I enjoy creating and I feel like it's a reflection of my own commitment to my practice and my art. But my thoughts around owning and claiming the title artist didn't come so easily. I definitely did have feelings of self-doubt where I felt like perhaps I needed to go to an art school, or perhaps I needed specific qualifications, or maybe I needed to have credentials that specify that I can call myself an artist. So, am I an artist then? What would constitute artists? I think that's a really, really tough question. Do I have to have a certain number of followers, or do I need to have to sell my art? And it's almost like, what would be the validation to say I am enough as an artist? All of these questions are things that have popped up in my head before, especially when I decided to do this full time. Knowing that I don't have any qualifications and wanting to call myself an artist was a little bit tricky because I wondered, what do I put in my CV? I can't really put like X number of followers, or I can't really write like there's not very much that I can write. I can't say like, oh, I filled up 5 sketchbooks. So these are all of my personal goals and my own things that I've done personally that I feel proud about. So, well, professional things aside, now let's just talk about things in a little bit more layman terms. I learned that the moment I dropped titles and labels and stopped shoeboxing myself into trying to be or think that I should be a specific way, I really started to show up for myself and create in the way that I wanted without being tied down by what others or society deemed fit as art. I feel like being an artist is really about creative expression, and that authenticity within us is its true essence of originality. There isn't anyone else other than you in the world. There's only just one of you. And I think that in itself speaks so much. So when I started showing up and just believing in myself, my craft, and just allowing imposter syndrome to come in but not overstay, I noticed how much I wanted to invest in myself. The way in which I started to create was different. I noticed that I wanted a lot more for my art. I started to listen to myself and seek what I wanted for the art instead of seeking validation from social media or from what others wanted or thought I was known for. And I think that really changed the way in which I started to view myself as an artist as well. So in the end, whether or not you choose to see yourself as an artist or not, it really starts with yourself. How much you believe in this piece of work that you're doing. How much do you believe in the amount of time you're showing up and committed to your practice? Because your self-belief is going to be what defines who you are more than what others think, or titles or professional accolades. All of this is not going to matter as much. Now, I know I just shared about my own personal definition of what artist is, but really, anyone can call themselves an artist as long as you decide to show out, as long as you commit to your own practice in whatever way that you define. And what I just shared was how I wanted to define my own practice and create space for myself in my own art practice. And I think that when we start to see things in our own terms, rather than to compare what our terms is to expected milestones, expectations of society, then we are never going to be able to call ourselves worthy of anything, because there's always going to be something better and we're always going to feel like we're falling behind. So I hope that this video has given you a little bit of inspiration to start thinking about who you can become and what you already are just because of what you are doing, instead of waiting until you finally get to a specific milestone. Because believe me, I feel like when you show up, when you practice, and when you're committed to wanting to better and hone your craft, you truly are an artist. Like with every video, don't forget to share with me the likes, the comments, the love, and I cannot wait to see you again next week.